Hello, everyone, and welcome to the first official Ukikicast, the podcast hosted by Ukikicpedia. Before we start, I would like to thank all of the Ukikicpedia patrons for supporting us enough to get this podcast off the ground. It's been really cool and really nice of them. For those of you that don't recognize my voice, I'm OneTed59, the commentator for the SM64 task competitions that ran from 2018 to 2019. So, I know my way around some Mario. Today, however, I'm going to be interviewing another SM64 expert, the one and only JoshDuMan. How are you doing today, Josh?
I'm doing great. I'm really happy to be here, and I'm really excited to be a guest on the Ukikicast so early on.
The inaugural guest, episode 1. Kaze was 0.5, Kaze was 0.5. You get to be the first official guest. How does it feel?
Yeah, it certainly makes me feel special, you know?
Same.
I think, my association with Ukikicpedia may have led Stick to think of me as a potential option. That's my guess, anyways.
Maybe. It's all right. We'll get there. We'll get to We'll get to the Ukikicpedia part. But starting off, for listeners who aren't super involved in the technical side of the SM64 community, the Super Mario 64 community, and may not recognize you, who are you, and what do you have to do with Mario?
So I'm JoshDuMan. I am a quote-unquote SM64 expert, at least according to the ABC, or A-Button Challenge and Tasking Discord. I've been around for a couple years now doing different things within the Mario 64 community, mainly focusing on the technical side of things. When I say technical, I mean code or other projects around the way
like super technical stuff.
Mario 64 functions. Decently. I'm not at the level of some of the other guys.
Well, there's levels. You're like level 4, and most people are level 1. You're pretty
fair.
Technical.
I'm still intimidated. Pretty intimidated when you get in a conversation with like Boot or Tyler or Peter. I'm definitely not on any of their levels, but progress has been made, which certainly feels good.
So, what would you say is your biggest contribution to Super Mario 64? What have you put into the game? What have the game gotten out of you?
So, I really liked... A lot of my goal has been trying to have, like in the community, has been to have some level of like discovery. I want to kind of have some type of thing that I can say, I found this. I was the one who pointed this out or noticed this specific thing within the code that allows some kind of tasking or A-Button challenge or even just general knowledge thing. So I was very fortunate. I've been involved with figuring out like the vanish cap under the moat crash.
Oh yeah, that's
Yeah, you can go.
That's a pretty lesser-known crash where if you press, what is it, C left?
Yeah.
C left on like one of the first frames. If it's not the first frame, it's one of the first frames of entering Vanish Cap under the moat. Your game will crash.
Yeah. If you press it you can buffer it or on the first frame, it'll crash. Only C left, and for a long time, no one really knew why. We thought it was camera related, at least the explanations I saw, but it wasn't really easily produced on emulator. Most emulators didn't crash.
Mm-hmm.
And one day I saw someone point out the fact that there was a model that didn't actually exist referenced by the elevator spawners in there. And I put 2 and 2 together, and I said, hey, what if it's shifting the camera, loading it into range, loading this thing that doesn't actually have a model, and it tries to load it, and there's nothing there, and so it just crashes. And we looked into it. Isaac A helped me out with that and tested it on console.
Shout out to Isaac.
Tested some ROMs. Yeah, shout out to Isaac. And sure enough, that was the cause. And so for me, it was a specific thing. That would be my singular thing where I'm like, oh, I'm most proud of this, even though it was more of just noticing a combination of things. But in the end, it doesn't even have any direct contributions. It's just something that was a long mystery.
It is a long mystery.
Mario 64 that was finally solved.
And it is your thing. That is like nothing else has really been similar to that. Hey, the game crashes under these scenarios. How do I do it? Well, here's how it is. And that is your trick. Congratulations.
Yeah, it makes me feel good too. I had a little hand in the Wiggler thing too, but I didn't make that discovery. I just pointed out the connection between Bad Boot's discovery and the
What do you
disk
mean
drive
by the
crash.
Wiggler thing for the viewers?
Oh yeah, so there's a unreleased disk drive version of the game.
Whoa.
There's one copy of it known in the world. Someone found it at I think a pawn shop in Japan.
It's a pretty good find, you know?
Yeah, pretty good find. Certainly a good buy. I don't think he spent all that much money for it, which is crazy. They didn't know what they had.
Yeah, definitely.
He dumped it online, and when I say dumped, he took the ROM and he supplied it online, and he noted that the only thing that he saw in the game that was different was it would crash when you'd enter Wiggler's cave, and no one really knew why. We didn't necessarily have the best emulation because it was the only copy of an unreleased version of the console, and so it was just this big thing for a really long time of, who knows, they changed something and now it crashes. But Bad Boot noticed that there was a certain the Wiggler references his speed by looking at values, like a list of values, and checking a value based on his health. So it would look at the third value if he has 3 health, or the second value if he has 2 health, or one, so on. And on the first frame, he has negative 32,000 or so health.
That's not that much health.
No, it's not much health at all. It's no health.
Less than no health, actually.
So, less than no health. You're right. So they get really lucky on the U.S. and Japanese version, and it just happens to work out. It's just luck. But on the disk drive version, it reads a value that doesn't actually. It's not a valid value. It's like a fake value. They're called denorms, the specific one that it reads. And so it's not a number. It tries to read it and it crashes. And I felt very confident because it fit all of the conditions of what we knew about the crash. So even though we were never able to directly reproduce the crash or do testing with it, we did figure it out, although it took a little while to actually determine that it was the cause.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to test on a one-of-a-kind game.
Yeah, but when you don't have access to it,
especially
you have to copy it over and whatnot. So that was another thing. But again, that wasn't one that I directly discovered. It was more just noticing the pattern and pointing out, hey,
exactly,
this could be the thing. We need to look into this.
Exactly. Okay, so that's your biggest accomplishment so far, I would say. So how did you get to that point? How did you get into SM64? Elaborate is what I put down after that.
So I originally growing up, Mario 64 came out like a month after I was born, 2 months after I was born. I was born in August of 1996. So growing up, it was certainly a game that I knew of. I had a Nintendo 64, and I had played it occasionally, but we didn't actually have a copy. My uncle had a copy.
Okay.
And so, besides occasionally borrowing it, or when we eventually got it years later, I didn't really play growing up. I did play Super Mario 64 DS, much to the disappointment of maybe the Discord, but that was my experience with it growing up primarily. I don't even think until recently I'd ever beaten the game.
Really?
Except for SM64 DS, which I 100%ed.
Huh. I mean, honestly, I think SM64 DS gets a slightly bad rap, but sorry, continue.
I agree. I had a fine time with it. I understand that it's different. I didn't understand at the time. I thought it was just SM64.
When you're young, you're just like, oh man, Mario game, I can play it on the go.
But that was my introduction to it. However, the thing that really got me into the game when I was older and actually interested in it was what I feel like is the same for a lot of people in the Discord, through Ukikicpedia and different Discords that are related to Mario was Panon's videos.
Same. That's the same for me.
Yeah. So I first heard of Panon Koic, Panon Koic 2012, in case someone hasn't heard of him. Although if you haven't, you should definitely listen to him. He's pretty well known in the community.
He has some pretty good videos.
I first saw him on Reddit. It was, and this I didn't put 2 and 2 together until fairly recently that this is what I saw, although I should have. I remember seeing about someone getting the impossible coin in Mario 64.
Yeah, that one really blew up.
It did. I think that was the first thing that like made people really go like, wow, look at this guy.
Well, impossible. Wow, how did he do it?
And I remember watching it and going like, huh, that's kind of cool. And then that was like it. And I mean, at the time it was really, really cool. Now it's a little like, okay, it's neat. It's really cool that he did it, but like,
There's so much
it's
more
mainly
now.
moving around.
Yeah.
He's done so many things now that are just like, wow. But at the time, it was cool. And then I saw the Watch for Rolling Rocks video.
That's how a lot of people got into it.
Yeah, go figure. So I really got into it. I've seen at that point, I watched all of his videos. I found his second channel, watched all of those videos. I found different people related to it, watched all of Tyler's videos. I had seen most of your videos.
Really? People still
point.
don't know that I have a YouTube channel sometimes. I'm like, what?
Well, I would notice like people in the comments or anyone he referenced or people that those people referenced because it was really cool to me.
Yeah.
And it was actually a big goal of mine to somehow get involved. I thought it would be like the coolest thing ever because it was so interesting to me.
Mm-hmm.
So fast forward, I got interested in. I was still interested in SM64. I was following what Panda was doing, and I started to. I was in another community of SM64 related stuff, more on the RTA side, more
okay.
the speedrunning side. And one day, Equanimity, he's a at least he was. I haven't talked with him or done much with him in a while. He is or was a Super Mario Odyssey speedrunner who was at like a very top level.
Yeah.
And he mentioned one day about seeing something in the Discord. I was like, "There's a Discord for that?" And he's like, "Yeah." And I'm like, "Could I get an invite?" And I had been in the community for a year and a half maybe, and I had never heard of the Discord. So got in through that, and it was just great. I came in like a week before the Bowser and the Fire Sea platform raising.
Oh man, that was a story and a half. I remember that.
Yeah, I'm very happy that I got in right around then because it was a very exciting time to be in the Discord.
Yeah, so you got in and immediately a big event happened, so it piqued your interest and held it. Dang, that was really a convenient timing.
And I'm happy to be here. Like it honestly, it might sound silly, but it was a very big goal of mine to become involved within the community. And it was just like how do you even do that? I thought you had to do it privately. I didn't realize there was an active community to just join and talk with people about that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it's really only opened up in the past couple years, ever since like the start of 2017 when the Discord started. Before that, it was very insular. You had to know people to know people to know people just to get around. But now
Skype and Facebook and
oh yeah, I remember those days. Oh man, fun times.
It's nice. It's nice to have more people coming in because there's obviously downsides that people could think about where you're like, well, not everyone necessarily knows much about it, although that can turn into someone who knows stuff about it.
Yeah.
Or, maybe you get trolls or things like that. But you can get so many people who just would not have been able to find the community otherwise, who would not have been able to come to contribute had it not been open.
Yeah.
Like myself, DS273.
DS was the guy I was going to bring up. I remember having to go find him and invite him from some random A Hat in Time IL Discord. That was fun. That was a fun time.
And so you end up finding these people who probably wouldn't have come into the community had it not been open. And that helps the community grow. It does a lot in that kind of way, in my opinion anyways.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it definitely has. It was basically dead for a long time before the Discord started. So I'm glad I could help with that a bit.
It's a major role. You played a major role in that, certainly.
I run the Discord, for those of you that don't get that. All right. Anyways, let's move on to the next question. The next question is, I've been hearing a lot about the recent project to decompile SM64. So here's an easy question. What is that? How does it work? What can they do with it?
Easy question.
Easy question. Very easy question.
So I think to understand what a decomp or decompile is, you need to understand at least a little bit about code. Code, on a very basic level, for anyone who's never used it, it's just kind of different math or mechanical things that happened one right after another to a set of values and it produces stuff.
Yeah.
So, it produces Mario 64 in this case. Um,
It makes the
when
lights
you
on the TV flicker in certain ways.
Yeah. When you write in a modern age, you write in generally higher languages. Higher languages are things that might look a lot like a math equation or might look a lot like English. If this happens, do this. You know,
Yeah, yeah.
Otherwise, if this is true, do this. Otherwise, do this. And so the code is almost readable. You may not be super familiar with it, but if you'd sit down and look at some coding languages, you might understand them. That's a higher coding language.
Mm-hmm.
A lower coding language would be something like that of MIPS assembly, which is what the Nintendo 64 would actually read of a ROM. So those are very, very basic, hard to understand, at least for me and most people.
If there's someone who
code.
says MIPS assembly is not like hard to understand, they are lying to themselves. Sorry, keep going.
Yeah, I mean it's you're probably right. And so that's the kind of language that you need. These very base, just add 5, go here, add 6, go here. No comments, no names, nothing like that. That's what is it's called compiled from the higher language that was originally written. So it's changed into that.
It's changed into the ones and zeros, basically.
Yeah. And so then we have that, and it's reversing it. And so I have a little bit more of an abstract example, actually,
Okay.
that may be easier for people, too. I wanted to kind of get that out there, but it'd be like, say you had a book series that you were really into.
Yeah.
And you've read the first 6 books, and the author wrote a seventh book, but decided that they weren't going to release it.
Okay.
But someone they knew acquired a copy of that 7th book, and they're Dutch, so they took the book, ran it through Google Translate. Yeah, Dutch. Panenkoic reference.
Yeah.
And so they translated it through Google Translate into Dutch. Now, you really want to read this book. So you have a few options. You could learn Dutch. Dutch would, it's obviously a lot to go and learn something like this, and it's through Google Translate, so it might not all make complete sense, but you could get a good idea of what the book was if you learned Dutch. That'd be the equivalent of learning the MIPS assembly. There's other options, though. You could run it back through Google Translate and put it back in English.
And you'll get something.
Yeah, you'd get something. You would lose a lot of meaning. There would be things that are just confusing. Some parts may not be right. And it would not be like a copy of the original book. You would have something that would be fairly equivalent to that original book, but it would definitely not be the same. That would be the equivalent of using like an automatic decompiler.
Yeah. So like a program that just tries to get as close to the source code as possible without any interaction. It just looks at it and just tries to say, this is it.
Yeah. Likewise, you could attempt to bring it back to your native language by translating it yourself or having someone else translate it for you. This might be more accurate than putting it back through Google Translate. However, it's still going to have issues just due to the inherent nature of putting it through Google Translate once. It's going to put errors into the code. So the only way to really know the original would be to go back into Google Translate, put different things that are similar to what you have as your output text, and keep running different things until eventually you get the same output of the copy that's in Dutch. So you could just keep trying random English sentences and words until eventually you get the same thing as what was output.
Yeah.
That would be as similar as you could get, and that is effectively what was done. They took the output and ran it through a thing like that and kept comparing it until eventually they had the same input that would produce the output through the original setup they had.
Wow, that seems like it would take a long time and a lot of work from a lot of people.
Yeah, it did. 30 people or so, 3 years. And it's not easy. It's still not done. And people take for granted too how fortunate it is that Mario 64 had this done. To my
Hmm.
knowledge, um, the number Mario 64 is the largest scope
Yeah, yeah.
project ever to happen. Um,
Really?
there was like of this type of thing, whether it be like in any community, because most communities don't have a reason to go for a matching decompilation, which is getting back the full thing where you can run it back through.
Yeah, the original
Um,
source code, the original text that would have been translated into Dutch.
yeah, so most projects don't need that. They just need a little snippet here or there or whatever else. And so even a lot of the corporate cases, they wouldn't go to that type of level. It becomes very difficult to
To actually do something
yeah.
that to that level.
One of the big miracles too that is easily forgotten about is even the original process of figuring out what the devs did to produce the output code. You have to
Oh
find
yeah.
the original compiler they used, which are not always public, and the original settings they used on that compiler. And that process took, to my understanding, several months. It cost a decent amount of money. Um, it was not a small amount of work to even get to the point of being able to start the project. And so I think it's opened up some eyes within other communities where they now realize that a
Wait,
project of this scope is possible.
we can do this too.
Because yeah, the only other ones prior to this, to my knowledge, I think there was one like Doom or Halo or some other game like that, some
Yeah. I
that
think
was done
yeah,
differently.
there's definitely been some Doom ones. Although Doom might have been released, I think.
Yeah, that's possible. And then there's the Pret repos, Pret being the Pokemon
Yeah.
um, decompilations, but those are a lot smaller in scope
The,
than the SM64 one. SM64 one is definitely the largest in terms of Nintendo themed, and it's one of the only that I know of, anyways. After looking a decent amount for just generally.
especially for ones that are like fully matching too, because there have been attempts in
Yes.
like games that are like, okay, we can get some of the source code back, maybe interpret it, but to be able to like compile it again back to the original
Yeah.
file, that's ridiculous. There's that just hasn't been done to this level before.
It's very rare. It's very difficult, and again, it's a good thing to say now. Like, look at what's been done. Look at where we're at, and this is possible.
Exactly. So, how did you actually get involved with Decomp? How did that start?
So I first started reading about it in the Discord server, and I was very excited seeing like all the stuff going on, and I wanted to see Decomp. I wanted to try and look at this code. I At this point I'd only had one semester of C++ coding, and even then it wasn't a full semester. It was like half a semester of C++ coding.
Ouch.
And in my mind, I was like, I can just look at this code and I can find glitches. I want to see this. Um, and so I messaged Bad Boot and was talking to him about it and was like, could I get access to this? And he granted me access and then brought me into the Discord. It was actually like a month before I had access to the Discord. Or not maybe a month, maybe like a week or so, where I was looking at the code, couldn't get in the Discord, and it was way above my level.
Oh
I'd
yeah.
never used C before, which is what it's written in. Um, and so it was just a gradual process. It took a lot of babying to
Yeah, a lot of
have other
people
people help me get through it all.
exactly.
Um, but I would certainly think that at this point it's worth it because I have had legitimate contributions on that side of the thing where it's now I feel like I'm no longer such a burden. I'm more a benefit finally to the project.
There you go. That's one of the best feelings. You're like, "Wait, I'm helping now." Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so speaking of helping, what would you say to anyone that would be interested in getting involved with Decomp? How can they contribute? How can they help? How can they become the help that you are?
So at this point, the SM64 uh, repository is almost 100% matching. There's 6 functions left, so the actual decompilation process is pretty much done, um, except for maybe if we go and work on Shindu, the Japanese later, the second Japanese release, or if
The
we
Rumble Pack edition.
yeah, or some of the very very difficult functions that are left. They're beyond my level. They're very difficult to work on. They're very long functions, and so most of what's left is just labeling code. Labeling code is easier. If you can read a coding language, chances are if you can read a higher coding language like
Yeah, yeah.
C or C++,
It's so weird to
chances are
hear C called a higher programming level language. But sorry, keep going.
I know compared to assembly though it
That
is.
is true. That is true.
Um, and so just going through and looking at things that aren't labeled and just saying, this is what this does. This is a proper name for it. Um, but even then, there's a lot of things to do that isn't even just labeling code. Even if you don't know code, one of the later bigger like things that were done within the repo, someone came in. I don't want to necessarily say any names because there is some
Of
risk.
course. Yeah, you got it.
It's the only pull request he did, which is putting code out there for review to be brought into the repo, was just naming textures. They just went through and named like hundreds of textures within the game.
Oh, jeez.
And it might seem really minor. I mean, it's a lot of work. It's not a small amount of work. And they felt they're like, well, all I did was name textures, but it ends up being super nice because whenever I'm working with the code, I no longer need to go and actually look at the texture and figure out what I'm working with.
Like, where is this?
I can just look at the name,
What
and
is
the name
this?
is
Sorry,
a
keep
good
going.
name. No, you're good. You're good. Yeah, like what is this? And it's right there now for me. So naming things like naming audio files, naming models, that stuff still needs done. There's still a lot of work in that area that really there's not been any progress on in recent memory. So even that kind of stuff, if you don't know code, there is opportunities there to work on those kinds of things, to just name things so people can actually know what they're looking at.
Yeah, make it easier for everyone to deal with.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
I certainly think that most people could contribute either SM64 or one of the other projects that are now
That's
within
true.
the scope.
If you're more into the decompilation efforts, they are working on other projects, although they might not be as easy as SM64 was.
Yeah,
So,
that is certainly true.
anyways, let's move on past the decomp and say, what can decomp be used for? I can think of at least one thing. One of the biggest ROM hacks in recent memory. What is Super Mario 64 Randomizer? And how does that relate to you?
Okay, so the SM64 randomizer, it came out at a time when randomizers were like particularly big. To my knowledge, the first randomizers I think of are Ocarina of Time randomizers or Pokemon randomizers, where they just scramble up where stuff is, where you get the items you need to progress in those games. I had thought about making my own randomizer, and I couldn't really see how you could do it with Mario 64 because there's only like caps. You could change where you get the caps. Okay, that's something. And I couldn't. My mind wasn't really able to think of, how could you really do this in a way that would work for anything else with the Mario 64? It'd be so limited. But Arthur Tilley came up with this idea of randomizing the locations of everything within the level. So stars are no longer where you'd expect them to be. Enemies are no longer where you expect them to be. Coins are all over the place.
Everything's all over the place.
Yeah. When you jump into a painting, you don't know what level you're gonna enter. It could be any level. And so he wrote this hack in Decomp and compiled it. And I don't think he expected how big it was gonna blow up, because it is certainly, like, in my mind anyways, the most major vanilla hack that's out there.
Oh yeah, for sure.
All over the place where people are actually just still running it. It's still active in that kind of way. So I got in by helping to solve various bugs. I didn't actually have access to the code at first. I just looked at the vanilla code and I figured out what the issue from the base game would have been, and recommended changes to Arthur Tilley. And eventually he gave me access to the repo, and I did a variety of changes to help improve different things within the game.
Dang, that seems like a lot of work. Not even knowing the actual code they're using, but just having to look at the original game's code just to figure that out.
Yeah, I mean, it was certainly an interesting process because a lot of bugs that we knew from the base game would come out in the actual hack, but it might not be obvious that it was a base game issue showing up in that way.
So on that topic, in terms of Randomizer, what is the weirdest bug fix that you have done for Randomizer? What is the stupidest glitch, the weirdest one that really made you scratch your head?
So there's certainly been a couple. I mentioned the Vanish Cap under the moat crash
Yeah.
earlier. So that one appeared in the Randomizer as a significant issue. The reason being, so in the base game, you can only crash the game if you happen to change what's rendered by looking to the left and bringing it into the render range.
Only in the first frames from the levels loading,
Yeah,
right?
it has to be the first frame, so it's hard to. However, we randomize where Mario spawns in the level.
Oh no.
And so, if Mario spawns somewhere that is facing the elevators, the game will crash. And so we had really common crashes.
I can't get into Vanish Cap under the moat. What's going on, devs?
Yeah, it would just the game, and it wasn't even obvious necessarily that was the level because people would just crash and say I crashed loading a level. So we had to figure out the level, figured out it was Vanish Cap, and it was at that point that it became apparent that we had to figure out why it was crashing. We had to solve the Vanish Cap under the moat crash in order to fix our game. We happened to have actually fixed it by accident on the dev build because Arth saw that there was a model without that didn't actually exist, and he said, this is causing graphical errors on my because he was testing out new graphical systems. He's like, this is causing errors, and he just changed it and fixed the model. So that was certainly one of the weirder ones. We accidentally fixed the crash before even realizing that we did, but it was at one point, a significant thing we had to work on. The other thing that sticks out to me was, so in the, well, I'll explain the issue. Okay. Maybe people who don't know of it can see if they know the glitch that causes it. We had this issue. We would change where stars would want to spawn.
Yeah.
Star would spawn at a general location, and it would try and if it was from an object, like defeating King Babam, maybe,
yeah.
It would fly to its goal location.
Oh, I think I might know what this one is.
Yeah. You probably do. And so we had this issue where the goal location was not in bounds. Most, everything else would spawn in bounds, but the goal location would spawn out of bounds, and the star would just fly out, and it would be unreachable.
You can't get it.
And so we really thought about, we were focused on the code, seeing, why was it not staying within bounds, until eventually it dawned on me that it's the same glitch that causes star bounce cancel in Mario 64. Stars overshoot their goal position by one frame just because the devs did their math wrong. They counted it's an off by one air basically.
Yeah.
And so it flies for one frame too many, and because the distances were so large, it was overshooting and just going out of bounds and things like that. The fix was super easy. We changed a 30 to a 29. But it wasn't necessarily, it was weird to see that glitch that wasn't even necessarily super known about prior. It was known, but it wasn't a thing that had a lot of attention to until the star bounce cancel. It was a major issue in the ROM.
I actually have a video on that from 4 years ago. Just saying.
I do remember that. I do remember you talking about the star overshoot. I think of the star bounce cancel because prior to that we knew it overshot, but we didn't necessarily know it had ramifications within the game.
Yeah.
Those ramifications, for people who don't know, being if you spawn a star high enough above its goal position, when it overshoots, it'll actually overshoot downwards by so much it never bounces.
It saves quite a bit of time if you can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It could save a second or so.
Which is a lot for a task. A free second? Dang, I'll take that any day.
If you want to see it happen in game, it's actually very easy to do RTA by just spawning the Klepto star. The Klepto star usually won't bounce because it's spawning so high up. If you watch speedruns, you actually won't notice because usually the pyramid's in the way.
The pyramid's in the way, so you won't even see it.
But that's the easiest star in game to just see it and go oh hey, I now know what he's talking about. So that was definitely the oddest thing. I remember being very excited when I figured that out because it was not obvious. Yeah,
you're just why are the stars out of bounds? What's going on?
Yeah, it was very confusing. It took a little while too. It was not abundantly apparent.
Cool. All right, so here's the next question. Question. What was it like when Randomizer was chosen to be showcased at GDQ? How did that feel?
So that felt amazing because it's like you realize whenever it's being shown at GDQ that they have acknowledged that the game is significant enough to want to show off in that kind of way. And so, by that point, I had some substantial work I'd put into the game in different systems. And actually, we've been at 2 GDQ events too. We were at
really?
GDQX. Yeah, Prism did a speed run at GDQX, and then the big race between Simply Cheese and Punkation. Not Cheese. No, it was simply Chrism.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Chrism and Punkation at the most recent GDQ. Chrism actually won.
Yeah, he's been really grinding it, hasn't he?
Yeah, I think he isn't really a runner who does just like a bunch of speed runs over and over and over of a game. He's very good at a variety of games and very good at speed runs of a variety of games, but I think to keep it fresh to his audience, he likes the variety. But randomizers are really good for that because you don't know what's going to come up. You need to improvise. You need to, go along. So I think it allows him to play Mario 64, which is a game he seems to enjoy, whereas he didn't just want to play, 70 star or 1 star over and over and over again. I say 1 star because I'm pretty sure he has. Those are categories he's done well in, if I remember correctly. Some of the very low star categories.
Dang. So that felt great.
Yeah, it felt amazing. It felt great to see it there, great to watch it. Just great to feel that kind of like it's noticed by this much.
Yeah.
It being out there.
Dang, there's hundreds of thousands of people watching the game that I helped make.
Yeah, really. It's cool because there are people who see it and don't even know. Like I actually have had a couple situations where someone was talking about it. They didn't even realize that I had a major hand in it. Yeah, which is really cool. Really cool.
Dang, that must be nice. Must be nice.
It's exciting.
That's
certainly exciting. And hopefully it doesn't stop. Hopefully we finally push out a new update and
get all the hype back.
Bring some more attention to it again. Yeah, and I feel like it'll be inevitable that whenever we get the next major update out, that it will. It just takes a little bit of time. It's harder to have as much focus, and a lot of the issues get harder the longer you work on the project because you put off the easy things, or like you do the easy things first. You put off the hard things. Yeah. But it is gradually having progress made for the next update.
Good. Make sure to let me know when the next one is. I got to get all the Twitch viewers first.
I certainly will.
Thanks. All right. So that was the randomizer section of questions I have. Let's see. On to the next one. What is the host of this podcast, Ukikicpedia, and how does that work?
So, Ukikicpedia is a it's a Wikipedia kind of themed Mario 64. It's a Mario themed Wikipedia. So that's maybe the correct way to say it.
Yeah.
With the ultimate goal of just having a centralization of all of the information about Mario 64, things about speedruns, things about TASs, things about ROM hacking, and just kind of taking all of these other sources that had information, just putting it there so one person can say, I want to know this thing, and they can check out the website, and it's there.
Oh, it's this. It's right here on Ukikicpedia.
Yeah, and it's certainly a lot of work, but over time, there's certainly been more and more areas that have come into focus, and certain things that are very helpful on the site. So it is still very much a work in progress, but I do have very good feelings about it long term because other things have come out of it like this. We've worked on RTA guides, working with the RTA community.
Yeah, the entire RTA guide is hosted on there, right?
Yep.
That's a pretty big deal. That's a lot of traffic.
It is. It is significant, and it's nice to have that centralization. So someone can go from reading about a certain star to seeing how, they would run it in a speed run to maybe the TAS world records for the for that specific star. So it's I think it's very nice to have that all in one place. Someone knows where they need to go to just find out anything about that specific thing.
Yeah, it's very useful. It's been useful for me, too. I know a lot about Super Mario 64, but sometimes I just look on there and be like, whoa, that's something that even I don't know. So it's just great to learn a lot about it.
Yeah, and so, again, it's certainly still a work in progress, but I currently plan on revisiting it whenever Decomp is a little more in a stable finished state and bringing back a lot of what we learned from Decomp into Ukikicpedia and helping to polish a lot of things.
Yeah, just finally, let alone labeling Decomp, just labeling Ukikicpedia off of what's labeled in Decomp.
Basically. I have an ultimate goal. I have done some pages where I have taken the code from Decomp and just written it as common language on Wikipedia. So there's a lot of action pages that go through all the things that will happen on an action, and it's literally just me going through Decomp saying, okay, what is this? What happens here? What happens here? What happens here? And trying to understand it that way. So I would like to ultimately, hopefully, do that around different mechanics within the game. That someone who doesn't know code could go and look on Wikipedia and just see in common English how stuff works.
Yeah, and that's very helpful because you get people that might not be that good at looking at code, but are really good at noticing, like, hey, this and this are related, stuff like that you may not get just from looking at the C code, just overviews of stuff.
And I think that's where it could, things could be really nice to help people, to help make this stuff more accessible for people who would otherwise be inaccessible, so they wouldn't be able to help out on things or truly understand how things work.
Yeah, exactly. So here's the one that seems to always follow after I ask, what is this? How did you get involved with Ukikicpedia?
So I have been involved with Wiki projects for a long amount of time. Back whenever I was in, I think it was 3rd grade, I got really active on the Scribblenauts Wiki.
Oh, man.
My goal of the Scribblenauts Wiki, I played the game and I was like, wow, for people who don't know, Scribblenauts is a game where you, there's a certain goal you have to do within the level, and it allows you to type in any word into the game. It'll spawn the specific things.
And there's a lot of words.
You type in. There's a lot of words, like thousands of words. And then you can use the various items you typed in to try and do the level. And so I found it interesting because a lot of different items had different traits within the game. And so I was like, well, I wonder if anyone has gone through and given full lists of all the items that fit.
Mm-hmm.
And to go figure, no one's done that massive project.
No one's only described like thousands and thousands of things. I wonder why.
Yeah. So me in my 3rd grade age decided, well, I'll be that guy. And so I found the wiki, and I have a few thousand edits on it.
Oh, man.
Cy Chicken, in case you hear me, I still think about you occasionally. It'd be cool to hang out sometime. He was the owner whenever I was on there. And so, I did a variety of edits through there, and even though we never ended up getting anywhere, as new games came out, we decided to also do the extra games.
Oh, no.
So not only did we have the few thousand words in the original game, but we also had
like tens of thousands in the later games.
Yeah, tens of thousands from later games. And the words weren't always the same between the games. So you had to differentiate the words sometimes and say, well, here's the original game and here's the second game. And now there's like 6 games.
Oh, gee.
I have not gone back. There's no way you could actually... What would have needed done is we should have just automated it. But I had no idea how to get involved with that kind of project where I'd automate.
Yeah, you were in 3rd grade.
That kind of stuff. Yeah. So, but it was very nice for me because it introduced me to different wiki practices and how to rate things. And so I was involved with like a couple other ones throughout, a lot of Team Fortress 2 wiki stuff. And then eventually I came in here and someone talked about starting a wiki, and I was like, I think that'd be really, really cool, and I would certainly help out with it. And so eventually Stickman,
shout out to Stickman.
It's like, well, I'll host this. Yeah, shout out to Stickman. And when they did, it seemed like a place that I could contribute immediately, being new to the community and not necessarily having a lot of the other skills to help out in other places.
Yeah, and by helping throughout, helping with that, you'd grok a lot of the stuff just through like exposure to it. Like, oh, hey, I can look at this stuff another person's done and get that.
Yeah. And because that's a lot of the issue. The information to learn a lot of this stuff is out there. It's just not always easy to find.
It's on a random Discord post like 2.5 years ago.
It's in a random Google Doc that explains literally just hyperspeed punching.
Yeah.
And so, you learn through that, and you learn through documenting it, and it helps out other people. That was one of the first things I did, was learning how hyperspeed punching worked and documenting a lot of it. And last week, I went to the Wikipedia page that I wrote back there as one of my very first things and linked it for Fifth Dispense working on
the ABC
I don't remember what
70
project
star
he was working
task,
on.
right?
I think it was ABC 70, yeah. And I was like, here's the information on the hyperspeed punching there. And it was just, it's on hand, and it's very easy just to be like, this is it. So
Yeah.
it's nice in that way. Once you gain that knowledge, even if you don't always remember it exactly, if you record it somewhere, you always have somewhere to go back and revisit and say, that's right. Here's this information.
Yeah, and sometimes if you find yourself being like, how does that work again? You can just be like, oh yeah, me from like 2 years ago knew everything about it. Here's what it was.
Yeah, yeah. And so, that's the kind of stuff that I like. That's the kind of stuff that like is my eventual goal, to just be able to, like, someone asks a question, you're like, hey, here you go. Just read this.
Read this. Like all the information's right here. That's perfect. Well, Wiki's perfect for that.
Yeah, it really is. It really is.
So here's a question about Ukikicpedia. What is your favorite Ukikicpedia article?
So my favorite Wikipedia article is definitely Nim wrote a page documenting all the differences between the Japanese version of Mario 64 and the US version.
All of them?
SM64.
Jeez.
All of them. He went through Decomp because we have the full code now, and he could just say, look at the US version, look at the Japanese version, what is different here, and he recorded all of them. Not all of them have explanations because some of the code is still very
Unlabeled.
raw. Yeah, some of the audio stuff particularly, it's very difficult to understand exactly what they were changing with the audio code. Although it needs revisited now to update some of the stuff that's missing. And going on there, it's very interesting to see some of the processes the devs went through and things they thought they needed to change. Some of them aren't necessarily apparent why they changed them. And so I like that. I like seeing what was done in between when the devs were working on things. I remember one of the most obscure ones, and I was actually thinking about this recently. Like, I still wonder why. I want to say the mother penguin in Cool Mountain, not the mother penguin, the racing penguin, it has a different shadow.
Really?
Oh
yeah, it's like slightly smaller, right?
They changed it, the type of it. I don't even know that it looks that different. It might be smaller. I haven't looked at it necessarily. I looked at it a while ago. I don't remember what it. I didn't notice anything where I was like, wow, this is a massive issue on the Japanese version that they needed to fix. But they changed it. I remember looking at the article and seeing that. I just went, why?
What? Yeah, what were they thinking? Like, what?
And so when he did that, he also discovered some other very interesting things. I think when you fail the race against the racing penguin in CCM, it plays the Koopa noise or the Babam noise or something.
It plays the Koopa the Quick noise.
Yeah. I never knew that.
I never knew that either.
He caught that and he said, look, it makes me wonder if the penguin is just a
copy and pasted Koopa the Quick, yeah.
Yeah, probably. And so when he did that, he discovered a lot of things like that where it's like, wow, I didn't even know that was a difference. I didn't even know that was something between the versions of the games. So I think that page is really cool, just from trying to understand how the game works, understanding the thought process of the devs.
Yeah, just to be like, oh, let's change this because of this bug, etc. Yeah, that's actually one of my favorite pages too. So I'm glad to hear that we both enjoy that.
Yeah, I think it's great. And you know what? Now that we support PAL, the PAL version of the game.
Oh man.
A second one needs done. I think that page should be changed into just US changes, and we need a PAL changes because there's certainly a lot of changes on PAL, although they're a lot less exciting than the US version.
Yeah, they're like slower, has other languages.
There's a couple.
Really? Like what?
Well, ledge climbing is different.
Oh yeah, ledge climbing. That one makes no sense.
They I think you can't ledge climb if you're holding A.
Yep. And it's like,
which is
why?
So random. And
so,
they also changed the escape code for Chukyas.
In what
Whenever
way?
you're being held with a Chukya and you try to escape,
yeah,
that code is different.
Huh.
I think they added the Z button in, if I remember right.
Oh, to make it easier to get out. Huh.
Which is just like, why? That seems so odd to me because most people don't even know that you can actually escape.
I don't know if it's like documented like anywhere in game that you can actually escape from Chukyas if you mash the control stick away from neutral and back to neutral, or mash A.
I had never heard of it until Pandon made the video on it. And so when we were going through and finding the changes, it's kind of hard sometimes to tell if something's a legitimate change or not.
Yeah.
The fact they changed that just makes me like, wow, I didn't know. And so, although those are probably two of the more interesting changes, I have a feeling we will find a couple more interesting ones if we would end up supporting Shindu. There's certainly more to do there.
Oh yeah, you can be like, why the heck did they change the audio on this? What are you doing, devs?
Yeah. Why did they fix the bully out of bounds glitch? That one's pretty obscure.
Really? They fixed that? Huh.
Yeah. Because that's actually an issue potentially for bully battery if we use out of bounds.
Oh no,
Oh,
now it won't sync on Shindo.
okay. I have a correction.
Okay.
I'm looking at Decomp and I just noticed something, so I'm gonna clarify this. The Penguin Shadow is not a U.S.-Japanese difference.
Okay.
It is a Japanese/US and PAL difference.
Ah, okay. That makes sense.
They changed it from 4 corners on the Shadow to 9 corners on the Shadow.
Really? So they just made it more circular for some reason?
And I think it displays a circular, but they like try and like figure out where the vertices should be on the surface to like make it look flat. So maybe the Shadow was like glitching off near the edges of the track or something, and they were like, well, we can fix that a little bit.
Maybe.
I don't. It's really odd. So I guess there is a couple things you just don't expect it, and certainly no one has found them.
Huh. Yeah, I definitely. There's always going to be some change that's like, oh yeah, there's a random change here, and we have no idea what it does. But
yeah,
the one that brings to mind with me is the fix in US for King Bob-omb just walking when you're talking with him.
Yeah, I never knew about that one.
Oh, that one was really obscure. That one was like, someone was like, hey, King Bob-omb's moving when I'm talking to him. It was a random Japanese Twitter post. And
we're like, wow, look at that.
And we were like, wait a second, there's just the difference here from JP to US. Huh. Weird.
And I think that's some of the cool stuff about the Ukikicpedia page, where now that we have Decomp public and we have that, you can go and look and say like, wow, I see now what this does. That's interesting.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
So yeah, I think it's really cool.
It is definitely really cool. So you were the person who wrote a majority of the Ukikicpedia news articles that I enjoyed so much. So what was the process on those? And when can we expect to see some more of those? Because I really want to get some news, you know what I'm saying?
So Ukikicpedia news is complicated.
Okay.
The original goal with Ukikicpedia news was we wanted on the front page of Wikipedia recent discoveries and things that happened to be on the front page. And so we were spitballing different ideas about, what we could do. And I remember saying, originally, I was like, I would update just bullet points of very quick things that have happened within the community, that could go on the front page. And there was a lot of push for full articles to be written. I remember saying, I will not commit to this. I don't want to write full articles.
Guess what happened?
And I was like, you guys can do that if you want, but don't expect me to rate these articles. Like, I don't have interest in that. And so then fast forward, I wrote about half of the articles. And so the thing with the Wikipedia news is I don't enjoy writing them. I really don't.
Oh no.
I enjoy whenever I get into it writing a Wikipedia stuff. It's more like technical writing.
Yeah.
And as an engineering major, that's more my speed. But Wikipedia news is significantly more
like pop writing.
Yeah, and so it takes me a lot longer. Each one of those would take usually one whole evening. I would spend hours and hours on it because it's not just writing the main article, which is going to take a decent amount of research. You have to also go and find other things that have happened within the communities, the various communities. I have. It was the original reason why I joined a bunch of communities because I would go and I will check the SM64 speedrunning Discord for all of their latest shoutouts for people. I would check the speedrunning or speedruns.com website and look at all of the recent records that were changed since the last one.
Yeah. And just be like, hey, I can use this one.
Yeah. I would go to the ROM hacking community and view the latest big hacks that have come out. I would try and keep track of any comps that have happened, so I would go to Speed Comp and Task Comp and the A button comp and the 1 year comp. Not really, that one hasn't happened yet.
Yeah.
Still work in progress. And I would try and do all those, and then I would look in our Discord and view all the videos. And so the time ends up adding up very quickly, where it's just like you write it, you have to proofread it, you have to get other people to proofread it, you have to go through and
it just blows
get
up.
a conglomeration of all this stuff that it takes so much time. And it's not that I'm not spending time within different various Mario 64 community projects. I just don't have the energy to write them.
Yeah,
Um,
I can definitely
and so,
empathize with that.
yeah, so that's kind of what's happened I with the Wikipedia news. I don't have the issue, or I mean, I don't have the interest to be the only one writing them,
That is very
and
fair. You never tried to be like, oh yeah, I'll write them. You're just like, oh, I mean, I guess I'll write them. I guess.
I didn't want it to be something that would get started by Ukikicpedia and then just kind of die off, which is what I saw that it might happen. But I don't have enough time to be the only one writing for it.
That's fair. Hey, if anyone wants to write Ukikicpedia news, come join the Ukikicpedia Discord, and we'll get in touch.
Yeah, we have. I would certainly welcome more authors. If anyone who is a current author wants to write an article, I encourage you to. Mini Corey wrote one recently about some of the changes in the RTA community, and I certainly welcome that kind of stuff too. It's not meant to be a TAS only focus. This is any community related to Mario 64 focus.
Yeah, yeah.
And so, we're always accepting people to come out and help. And same thing with Wikipedia. Wikipedia can always use more editors. And chances are, if you can write in clear English, then you can probably contribute in some fashion.
Dang. Yeah, make sure to contribute to Ukikicpedia.
Yeah, contribute to Wikipedia. Say it again.
Contribute to
out there.
Ukikicpedia. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Now, that was the Ukikicpedia section. Let's move on to the rapid fire section.
Okay.
Real quick, only a couple of questions. So, here we go. Dun 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 dun. What is your favorite bug glitch exploit in Super Mario 64?
Okay. So this one's difficult. I'd probably say cloning.
Cloning. Why is that?
Cloning is just cool in the fact that it's manipulation of the memory slots. There isn't a lot of glitches like that in Mario 64. There's only like a couple. And so the fact that, there's something so prominent within the game that you can see it and it has unintended consequences, it opens up a lot of other glitches that you wouldn't expect or other things to be possible. Things like transport cloning, getting to certain places where you shouldn't, getting objects where they shouldn't be.
Just throwing objects across the map.
Yeah. Extreme spawning displacement. And so it ends up being more than just the glitch itself. It opens up potential other glitches elsewhere.
Yeah, those are
things like the loading zone crash that DS pulled off by cloning a teleporter, and then using it above the loading zone in Wet Dry World and crashing the game that way. Like, that's crazy to me. I like that a lot.
Yeah, you can do so much stuff with it. You can even do it like not even glitches. Like, what is it? Collecting the secret star in Bob on Battlefield, where you normally would have to fly it. You can do that without collecting any coins, or using any like cannons, coinless, capless, cannonless, and it's just completely ridiculous.
Yeah, like and Panin, a lot of those are Panin's videos. Credit to him too.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, that's where I first heard about it. It opens up that kind of stuff, and I think it's very, very cool that it does that, because it is very critical in my mind, anyways, for a variety of different like true complicated setups in Mario 64 have some involvement with cloning, and I think it's neat.
Like for example, the secret aquarium entrance in Shifting Sandland.
Yeah.
That uses a ton of random cloned things that previously we would be like, what?
Yeah, and that's not the focus of it. That's just a thing that happens, but it's critical for
it's
it.
Just
things
a tool.
Like in the A button challenge, the Star Dance clip, or in TikTok clock, the Star Dance clip to get up the cogs, it's important, and it's a really cool moment. You set the flame there, and there's the whole complicated session of walking up, and then you clip up this massive thing after stepping on the clock hand, and you burn, and then you grab the star, and you're up there. But that wouldn't be possible with cloning. That's all cloning.
Yeah.
Even if I don't think about it that way. And so I like that it opens up so many doors. Even if that is a really common answer, I think it has to be that for me.
It's definitely a fair answer. It's, in my opinion, like one of the coolest glitches in the game. Okay.
Yeah.
So, next rapid fire question. What is your favorite task competition run? I have in my notes here, do not take I don't know for an answer.
Okay. So, that is certainly a hard question. Something that pops out to me recently is Dennis's run for the last task.
Oh yeah, that
because
one.
that was just
That
amazing.
one's ridiculous. In that run, for those of you that haven't seen that task competition, you should check out my YouTube. I have them all up there. Um, he made a like essentially a custom slideshow after the run was finished, just explaining things in the ROM of the game. That one was ridiculous, and that is like so much work into it.
Yeah, it was so cool. And go figure, me being a more like I really like the coding of the game, things like that. I would pick something, you know, the only one that would have something so major like
Yeah,
that. But
exactly.
I think from a more traditional point of view, he read the sign.
He read the sign. He read the
That moment
sign.
was so good in that wet dry world task.
Oh man, that
Um,
was when Plush actually the task was get from the grate in Wet Dry World all the way to the shocking arrow lift star
yeah,
just as fast as possible. There was no other thing. So Plush got speed on the slope and actually used the sign to turn around and just jump straight to the star. It didn't win. It wasn't particularly close, I think. It was still amazing though, because you would never think
yeah.
of something like that happening.
It was so exciting at the moment. Like even yeah, it was just it it, it was really exciting to watch. That entire task was really great.
Oh, that was one of my favorite tasks because it's simple, but there's so much to it. You could do so many
Yeah,
different options. Like almost everyone did something different.
yeah. And I like a lot of bingo tasks too. I like seeing different people's processes, although I know those are hard to route and whatnot.
Yeah, those
Um,
are much more routing focused. Be like, can you find the best route instead of optimization? Those are good.
but certainly, I think the plushes he read the sign task is probably the one that sticks out to me the most in terms of like traditional um, task comp
That's definitely I could
things.
definitely understand that. The one I was thinking was Cinnable's old route in Sifting Sandland, the bonus one I played at the end of the stream. I don't know if you've
Yeah,
seen that one.
I have. I have.
That's a classic.
So many great moments. I am certain that we will see a return to task comp some point in the future here.
Oh yeah,
Although I think it's very healthy
to take a
to be
break.
stepping back
Yes.
from it a little bit. Yeah. I mean, we see Deva's been working on that. I say Devo and MK Dasher primarily have been working on that um, BLJ-less one star,
Yeah.
and we haven't had a big project like that get a lot of steam from what I think of as like very top tier taskers in a while.
Yeah, it's been a while. Basically, since 120 since before 120 got stuck on um, Bob Battlefield 100 coins.
And to put it in perspective, that's pretty much been the entire time I've been in the community.
Oh man, you
I have I've never seen like to that degree in my mind, anyways, that I can think of off the top of my head, like a major speed task of of vanilla
yeah,
ROM.
huh?
Um, and so definitely that's where like I think that it's really cool in that way, and I'm excited. It'll be great when TaskComp comes back, and hopefully we'll see returns some of the people who stepped away for a little bit.
That's true. I think a
Um,
lot of people are getting burned out. I was fine, but a lot of people are getting
yeah,
burned out. But I am excited for that to come back eventually.
yeah. I think it's good to do variety and not force yourself to work on projects you don't have interest in. Otherwise, you'll burn yourself out.
That's true. That is very true. All right.
So
Next rapid fire question. These are not very good rapid fire questions. Okay.
sorry,
No, no, no.
I'm a
It's okay.
talkative
This is
guy.
great. Don't apologize for talking on a podcast. That's the whole point of the
That's true.
podcast.
That is true. There's just more to listen to. There's more to love.
Exactly. So, this is a good one. What is your favorite Mario meme? He has no
I
idea. He's thinking.
I have no idea. Um, I quickly navigate to the Discord and look through all the emails to see if
Quick,
there's
I have
something
to
there
find
that'll
a
stick
meme.
out to me.
Oh no.
Um, I've never been into Dory as much as some other people have.
You should try it. It's pretty great.
I don't I just don't know that I can. I was in the Church of Dory for a little bit. It wasn't for me. Um,
That's okay.
uh,
You stumped?
I am having a very hard time.
He's not a memer, ladies and
Well, let
gentlemen.
me ask you, what is your favorite? Maybe I'm forgetting
My favorite, well, I mean, I'd have to say nice VSC at the end. I mean,
Nice VSC.
but
Oh, that's true.
that's
Yeah,
not even like a real answer. That's just because I did it. That's my meme.
still pretty good.
That is true.
Still pretty good.
That is a pretty good one. Okay,
Um, I'll just go with H. How can you go wrong with
That's
H?
also mine.
H. It
Gotta
is
love
yours.
H.
It works though.
It works. That's a classic. Okay, next one. What is your favorite Panenkoic 2012 YouTube video?
At first, I thought you were asking Panenkoic from the year 2012, and I was like, God, I don't know them by
God,
year.
no.
Oh God, I'm gonna have to go look.
No, don't do that.
Uh,
You'll end up watching Ice Bully off the platform, Panen's best
Probably.
video. You should
Some
watch
of those
that,
older
actually. That has not aged
Watch some
well.
of the deleted ones.
Oh, those are
There's
good.
like 2 deleted ones that we have. Panon probably wouldn't like me mentioning that.
Yeah, make sure not to watch
I won't,
them at...
I won't tell you where. I haven't seen anyone else link it.
But anyways, what is your favorite
So
one?
I think Disappointing Observations probably. Ironically.
Really? Explain that one to me.
So part of the thing with Disappointing Observations is a number of them have actually ended up becoming helpful. And other things about, like, there's small things where it's so close, where you're just like, oh god, it's so close. So like Cogmissa, the strat that use a cog misalignment to get up. If I remember right, I think that was in the Disappointing Observations video.
Maybe. It's been a while since I've watched that one, so I don't really have a great recollection, but I think it was in there.
I think there's just like a couple things like that where it's just like he points out something where it's disappointing, and to an extent, it doesn't work out, but it shows A, strats that didn't make it in, and B, like a whole bunch of old issues that they were trying to solve and think of solutions to. I just opened up the video. One of them, he's talking about the Big Boo merry-go-round. Well, that one's been solved.
Yeah.
Things with Lethal Lava Land and Wiggler and stuff like that. And a lot of those things in the Disappointing Observations are still some of the best text that we have to do things. Wiggler Hyperspeed in that video
I love Wiggler.
is ironically like one of the only things we have in the Wiggler cave. We've probably rolled it out, but it's cool in that way.
Oh, yeah. It's cool to see a lot of like smaller strats that have the possibility to be worked on, I think.
Yeah.
Instead of
I
like,
agree.
oh, here's this finished video. It's like, man, I'm having trouble with this. And then you could be like, wait a second. Have you tried this? Stuff like that.
Strats aren't always dead. DS solved that the pendulum box
Oh, yeah, that is
strat
true.
that was thought to be dead for a really long time.
That's the coolest ABC star, and I won't have anyone tell me otherwise.
Stomp on the Thwomp is really cool. It's gotten to a crazy point now. I certainly think that it's my favorite. Other people might say Secret Aquarium, but I think there's more going on.
Well, the star of Secret Aquarium is so lame. But
Well, that's true. I'm talking of the whole strat.
the
with it,
entrance, the way to get into to save one button is ridiculous. But the actual star is kind of lame. You just press B a lot.
So that's my favorite Panon video, certainly.
I definitely understand that. I think that's a good choice. Okay, so on to a different topic. How you were involved. We talked about GDQ a while back, and you mentioned Cheese, that he didn't actually run Super Mario 64 Randomizer, the project you worked so hard on.
Yes.
But he did help commentate something at a GDQ. He commentated the one key task at GDQ, and you were one of the people helping him with commentary. What happened with that?
So, we got the one key task to be shown at GDQ, and we were very excited about it. However, there was like no one able to necessarily commentate it. It wasn't apparent that anyone directly from the community would be commentating it. Somehow, Zhangyan
Was it really Zhang?
was the person who was deemed the go-between to contact Cheese about commentating the task.
Huh.
And so Cheese Zhang DM'd Cheese. I remember Cheese getting it. I was watching his stream when he got Zhang's message. And that was the original connection between that. Then Bad Boot got in there, and I asked Bad Boot if I could sit in. I didn't plan on explaining so much because at that point I didn't really understand everything that went into the task. Although by the end of it I ended up understanding. So I went in there and I helped serve as an extra person in that group. We ended up bringing in Tyler Keene too.
to really get the technical
who's-
stuff, because he never actually explained a lot of the stuff he did in One Key. He never actually finished that write-up.
Listening to him talk about it, he has such good stories on that kind of stuff.
Oh, yeah.
It's insane. Like, yeah, he just mentions things off the cuff. Like, he's like, yeah, I made a full simulator of the game in Excel, because I needed to simulate 2 seconds of the task, and I didn't want to do it by hand. And you're like, what? How is that nowhere? How have I never heard of this? How is that Excel document not public? How did you have the patience to do that?
I don't know. I was there when he did that, and I have no idea.
And so having him in there, I mean, was amazing, because you just learn automatically. But listening to Bad Boot and Tyler talk also taught me a lot. And I did some minor things that I could help out here or there. I made some diagrams and just worked with him. And he was very eager to learn. He certainly realized the scope of the project. But by the end of it, I think he had a very solid understanding, much more than he had going into it.
Oh, of course.
Which I think is cool. You know, we potentially helped him have just a better understanding of the game he's working with in general. Parallel universes were no longer just a meme to him; they were
actual things that could be used in tasks.
Yeah, and he has an idea of how they work. So it was, he ended up being like a perfect person in terms of that kind of stuff, and willing to learn, his dedication to that kind of thing.
Yeah, it ended up being great.
It was great working with him and working with Boot and Tyler and Zhang, and
dang.
And, you know, getting to see that at GDQ and the reception from that.
Yeah, because it went great. I remember a lot of people being like, "Wow, that was crazy."
Yeah, I think it was really cool. It was definitely a very cool moment in my book, anyways.
I agree. I wish I could have been there to see it live, but you win some, you lose some. It's all right.
I've got to I got to find a time to get to GDQ so I can watch some of that stuff live.
Just come to.
You go to most of them, right?
I've been to the past couple. I'm planning on going to the next couple.
Maybe we can meet up there. Have a Mario 64 meetup at one of these.
That would be fun.
Those events.
I'm at Arcoms at 2018.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah, I think I have a video. Or was that last year? I don't know. They all blend together beyond a certain point. Humble brag.
So, I would. I mean, it's an exciting event. I'd like to go. I was originally really hoping to go to the one where Randomizer was going to be at. There was physically no way I could make it work.
Ouch.
You know, I thought that'd be really cool. I thought maybe, you know, I'd even be able to help them with some of the calming and whatnot. But it didn't work out. And that would have been a lot to try and, you know, squeeze my way into that.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you could just be like, "Hey, I'm a dev. Let me on the couch."
Yeah, that was, but it you know, school exists.
That is also true, sadly.
So, and I'm already going to be missing some school for other things, so it doesn't work out where I could do that. Plus, it costs money to go.
That is true. It does cost quite a bit of change. Ouch, my poor wallet.
Yeah, I know that feel.
Okay, so that was the GDQ question. Now it's on to the screenshot quotes, where I read funny quotes that you have said.
Okay,
back to you, and you tell me what was going on in this moment.
Okay.
All right, you ready? This is from last Wednesday at 1:22 p.m. From JoshDuMan. Hi, it's me, Pannon. Explain.
Oh, okay. So, at that time, there was someone had just joined the Discord and was very excited to be in the Discord with Pannon. Which, to be fair, I've been in the exact same situation, so I understand what they're going through. But it is funny when they're like, "Is Pannon here?"
Here?
I missed Pannon, and
Pannon.
so I named myself Pancake 2020 as a spoof on Panoncoic 2012, and I was memeing about, "Oh hey, you know, I'm Pannon," although doing it as clear as I could that I was not Pannon. I didn't want to be impersonating him, even if I was joking about being Pannon.
You don't want to break any rules, right?
Don't want to break any rules. Don't want to break Rule 13.
Is that the number?
So, I just pulled it up. I didn't know that offhand.
Oh, I feel like I should know that, but that's okay. Okay, next one.
Yeah.
Next one. Okay. I once thought a bike seat was called a boner. I don't know why.
Oh, okay.
So after a bike ride, I told my friend something along the lines of, "This boner is too hard. It's hurting my butt." Please explain.
It's pretty much what it sounds like. I was probably 13, 14, 12, somewhere in that zone, like a preteen, young teen. Um, I don't know where I got the idea that was the name. I cannot tell you. But I do remember that full exchange is permanently ingrained, and he was dying because he knew what it was. And so
man.
to him, it was the funniest thing ever what I just said, especially at that age, you know.
Where
and then
everything's funny.
he explained to me my mistake. And so now it's just something I can look back on and really laugh about because, God, I was so wrong. So
It's all right.
yeah. True story. It is a true story, I promise you.
Sure. I don't know if I 100% believe you, but I'll take your word for it. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's skip these next couple. June 18th, 2019.
Okay.
Yeah. I weigh
Going back.
125 libraries. I'm massive. Please explain.
Libraries. Oh, God. Okay, the only thing I can think of is I typed LBS into my phone, and it fixed that. Either
LBS?
that, or I would think that maybe someone else made the same mistake and I was mocking it.
I don't know.
Either
think it was your
I or
mistake.
someone else meant to say pounds and did libraries instead, because LBS, you know. And that's definitely the thing, because that's 125 pounds. I mean, that is correct. So that's got to be the issue. I don't remember that conversation at all. I don't know where someone found that.
I did a deep dive before. I did a deep dive.
You were the one to
before this.
find that?
Yeah, I found that one.
I certainly do not weigh the weight of 125 libraries.
That's good. That's a lot of books.
Yeah, I don't even think I'm one library.
Most people
although I
aren't.
haven't checked.
It has to be a very small library.
And a fairly large person.
That is also true. All right, next one. When I was young, I managed to learn how to hiccup on command.
Yeah.
Please explain. How did
It's
this
true.
come? How? What?
So, I can burp on command. Some people can do that. You just kind of swallow air, then burp back up. And if I do it in rapid enough succession, I can actually start hiccuping.
Huh.
And so, my brother and I would hold these like little competitions where we would try and do something to see if the other person could do it. And I could usually trump him with the fact that I could hiccup on command. However, it's not necessarily a fun skill.
Yeah, you just end up like,
Because-
wait, I'm just hiccuping now.
Yeah, now I'm hiccuping. I don't have the skill to stop it. So, you end up hiccuping. So, oh great, I did this thing that no one wants to have.
But I can do it on command.
Yeah. So it is technically something I can do, and it's kind of interesting. But maybe not in a good way.
That's definitely how I would put it. That's for sure. All right, and on to this last one. This is a quote from another person in February 18th, over a full year from this point. This is a quote. If painting can use SM64 assets to recreate the paintings, why didn't he just use the paintings? Then you said, I fucking hate you, Kays. Please explain.
It's true. So, it's obviously right. He makes a ridiculously strong point. It is just an asset in the game.
That is true.
Like, and it makes me. I have to respond with that. I hate him for it because it's such a good point, and it makes me angry because I enjoyed the video. I enjoyed the premise of it, and now I'm just angry because there's such a large hole in the entire premise of it.
Painting.
And like you can get around it where you can say, well, I wanted to recreate them not using the things, but
yeah.
So.
It's all right. I just thought that was a funny one.
No, it certainly is funny. I don't actually hate Kays. I don't want to start any rumors.
We all understand that.
No, yeah, it was just I understand where I was coming from in that moment.
Good. All right, on to some trivia questions. What is your favorite game, and why is it Endless Ocean 2 on the Wii?
Okay, so I have a little bit of hyperbole when I talk about my favorite games because it's very difficult often to point to a single one.
Except for Endless Ocean 2 on the Wii, of course.
Endless Ocean 2 on the Wii is probably my favorite game, like on a Nintendo console in recent times. Um, I really I used to like Banjo Tooie, and I really like some recent ones like Breath of the Wild and
Mm-hmm.
Odyssey. But Endless Ocean 2, I have probably thousands of hours in.
Oh wow.
Um, the game, for I would assume most people haven't heard of it because it's not a super common game like people talk about. You're basically just in an ocean swimming around. There's fish. You can pet the fish, and you get like information about the fish when you pet them.
Hmm.
You can find treasures in the ocean where you're at.
The endless ocean.
The endless ocean. It's not actually endless. It's a misnomer.
Oh, okay.
But you go around and you just interact with fish, and there's like a really bad storyline to the game.
No.
But there's different areas you explore through the storyline, and there's a lot of achievements and a lot of things to do within the game. And I'm very big on games where it's like I'm a completionist.
Ah, there you go.
So there's a lot of stuff to do in the game to check off, and the game was engaging to me enough that I have put a lot of time into that game. And so it is definitely one of my, if not my favorite game. I would die for an Endless Ocean 3. Like that is, I have occasionally searched to see if by chance there's a rumor of it, and there has not been in recent years, and it makes me sad.
That's very unfortunate.
It's a quality game. If you're ever looking for a Wii era game, I would definitely check out Endless Ocean 2. I highly recommend it.
I've never even heard of it before I saw that it was your favorite game, so I was interested.
Yeah, no, it's a lot of fun. It's just exploring the ocean, meeting some fish, finding some treasures, and a bad storyline.
And then collecting a star at the end, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Once you touch the right 4 treasures.
No one can disprove me there. They'd have to go through and
they'd
find
have
out
to
for
actually
themselves.
play the game.
Yeah, so.
Okay. Next trivia question. Which was a better instrument to play? Trumpet or steel drum?
Okay, that one's easy. Steel drums. I hate trumpet.
Yeah, that was gonna be an easy one.
My high school had a very famous, very well-known steel drum band. In fact, even by saying this, I'm sure someone could figure out what high school I was at. It was, like we started it in the early '90s, and they did a lot of touring and things like that.
Oh wow!
With the steel drums. They were the first steel drum band to be in the Rose Bowl parade, which is a really, really big
that's
parade.
big.
So they were the first steel drum band to be featured in an event like that. Traveled and performed at different concert halls and with different like small term celebrities. And so growing up, I was always wanting to be in it because it seemed so cool and it seemed like so much fun. And it was. Playing steel drums was one of the best things I've ever done in my entire life.
Oh, wow.
And so playing trumpet, being in the normal band and playing trumpet was a requirement.
Really?
To do steel drums. You had to be in the bass
drums.
band.
Yeah.
Because they had so many people who wanted to do steel drums because they were so well known that they had to narrow it down somewhere. And so requiring you to be in band is a natural prerequisite, so he doesn't have to teach you how to read music and things like that. So I ended up becoming drum major, and then I didn't have to play trumpet for at least marching band at my high school.
You managed to get out of that. Was it worth it?
Oh, totally worth it. I love being drum major. It was a lot of fun. I made some really good friends.
Dang.
So, definitely steel drums. Easy.
Easy? Yeah, I kind of figured. I mean, one of them was like, dang, steel drums. The other one's like, it's just trumpet.
Yeah. I also sound a lot better on steel drums than I do on trumpet. There's also a recording of me out there playing a long solo on it. I would probably need to just like rip the audio from it or something because it has my name and my high school.
Yeah, obviously.
Full long video of me, but maybe I can try and get that.
That would be interesting, I think.
So people could listen. Yeah.
You should send that to Stick. He can put this on right after this.
Maybe. Yeah, people can have a reference to it. So
that was that.
It definitely steel drums. Steel drums is a lot of fun.
Oh yeah, I've heard. Have not played them myself, but they're pretty cool.
Yeah, it's a cool instrument.
Definitely. Let's see. Here we go. We're getting down to the final couple of questions here. We are an hour and 20 minutes into this hour-long podcast. I don't know if I had enough questions. Um,
That's okay. I think we've done fine on keeping it full.
maybe. I don't know. We
If
might have to do
needs
another
we can
one
always
tomorrow.
cut this
That's okay.
down. Yeah, we'll do another one tomorrow.
Maybe. Okay. This is the final regular question. Is there anything that I haven't asked that you really wanted me to? And what would that be? Anything that you were really prepared for?
You've hit a lot of it. I the like most of the projects that I have been the most involved with being Randomizer, Decomp, Ukikicpedia, you've touched upon. The only one that we didn't really end up touching upon was TaskComp, but even then, my contribution to TaskComp was primarily getting GSA involved with the TaskComp community.
Oh yeah,
But I don't have any questions. I don't have any questions about it. It was just something that happened, and getting to meet the GSA people who run GSA, which is an absolutely great community, or a great thing for the community. And I was very excited to bring TAS into that with how we could. They do TAS Tuesdays or something now too, which is
Yeah, they just
really
play TASs all Tuesday. It's pretty great.
so. In terms of a speedrunning tassing connection, besides Wikipedia, that's probably the biggest thing I've done, and I've met a lot of people through that, which has been a blast. But I don't really have a question about that. That's just me talking about something else I've done, I guess.
Well, yeah. The question was basically, is there anything you want to talk about that I didn't ask?
That would be the only thing that sticks out to me is like, this is something else I did that I'm fairly proud of.
Yeah, because that was big. That really grew the TaskComp a lot.
Yeah, even if we didn't end up, it stunk. It was only for around a year, but by the point, it was difficult to keep a lot of people not to be burnt out and to keep doing it during school and whatnot. It was great though, because a lot of people got a chance to see and understand what TaskComp is through that, and certainly opened up.
Yeah, of course.
The viewership of the event.
Yeah, I mean, it used to be on my channel, and it was getting like 100, and then we moved channels, and it was getting like, dang, it's getting like 1,000. That's pretty good.
Yeah. There's just a big audience for it. And I think it makes sense too, because it supports GSA, it gives them something to put out there, and it gives us that audience to really put the TaskComp out where it should be.
Yeah. All right, so that was a good final question, but now we are on to the actual final section of this podcast, this interview, and that is the Patreon questions. We have 3 of them today, and I want you to go super in-depth on all of them.
Okay.
So the first one is from Blue Piero. This is a little out there. The question is, if circles were outlawed in your country, how would you deal with life without circles?
Okay. I'd be very disappointed if that law came into place. Circles play a prominent role in my life.
That's fair.
I think if I knew it was coming up, I'd probably try and leave. I'd probably try and emigrate from my country, because if they're to the point of creating laws about circles, I probably don't want to be in that country anymore. There's probably a lot of other things that they've gotten strict on. However, if I am forced to be in the country and the law is passed, I become very concerned about my eyes.
Oh, no, those are spheres. You'd be fine.
They're spheres, but it depends on the direction you look at them from. I mean, like, my pupil's a circle.
Oh, no. Yeah, you're right.
And so I'd probably close my eyes and just try and... I assume there'd be mandatory eye removals, which would be awful.
Oh, God.
And so I'd probably just close my eyes and still do my best to leave the country. Because I still don't want to be in a country that would be limiting things like that. Assumedly, this is not a good place if they're now at the point of removing eyeballs.
Yeah,
I couldn't get along with that.
Why did they pass this law? Circles are very important.
Although I figure after the law's been in place long enough, I could probably reopen my eyes because everyone won't have them anymore, and then I'll be good if I've waited long enough.
Yeah, they won't be able to tell, and they can't use cameras because those all have circular lenses.
That's true. Yeah. So that's my mind on that.
There you go. I think that was.
Hopefully that world never happens.
Hopefully, you never know. It might.
Yeah, I can't rule it out. I guess technically.
That's true. Okay. Next one. This run is from Macropay. No, actually, let's do Bad Boots one first. That Macropay is
Okay.
a good one to finish the podcast on. Here's one from the one and only Bad Boot,
Legendary.
legendary Bad Boot. How did you physically? Wow, that is wow. How did you physically and psychologically? That's where I got it from. I mixed up those two words. Psychologically prepare for beating Secret Aquarium in one IRL breath challenge.
Okay, so
So
for anyone who doesn't know, that was my first video I ever uploaded related to Mario 64 content. I don't have many. It's like one of like 4.
yeah,
And someone put on, I think it was Ethan White, put on the Ukikicpedia Impossible single goal challenges, beating Secret Aquarium in one breath, and I was like, this has to be possible. This seems abundantly easy. And so I was like, well, I'll just do it and get it off the list. It's still up there. They have it in like a bottom section of ones that have been completed. That wasn't my intention. My intention was just to
get it
to
out
finish
of there.
it and say
Yeah.
it's been done. And so there actually was a little bit of prep, unironically.
Okay. What did that
so-
involve?
I learned from one of my friends who was at the the United States Air Force Academy in Colorado. There's a trick in terms of being able to hold your breath longer. He used it for some of his swimming requirements he had to do for some of his op training. And if you hyperventilate prior to holding your breath, you'll actually put an excess of oxygen into your blood. It's normally an issue. That's why you don't want to hyperventilate, is you're bringing in too much oxygen. But whenever you're going to be holding your breath, you can hold your breath for a little bit longer if you hyperventilate before. So if you actually watch the video, I am hyperventilating. I'm breathing really hard for a few seconds before I start, so that I
Can hold your breath as long
I can hold
as
my breath
possible.
longer. Yeah, someone actually gave me a hard time about it. They're like, "I think you prepared too much for that," and I'm like, "No, you don't know. It was actually part of it." So
Because the video is only like a minute and 20 seconds long.
yeah, I mean, I probably could have made it. I didn't know how long it was going to take. It was like my second try. I did like one time just to like see if I could do it on keyboard with one hand, because I had to hold my nose. And so then my second time, I was like, well, I just want to make sure I'm gonna not get partway through and then have to do this again, because I
yeah,
ended up having to breathe.
that's very fair.
So it was certainly possible. It was very much possible. I remember giving a thumbs up while still holding my breath at the end of the video. So
Dang.
that was my process for that, I guess.
And you said that wasn't your best Mario 64 thing you've ever done.
No,
Really?
it's up there.
I don't know if
Probably
I
top 5, but
doing an impossible challenge. Come on.
yeah, it was impossible. Impossible holding your breath in Secret Aquarium.
And it's actually not that hard.
Yeah, I actually thought about following it up for a little bit. I considered trying to beat the game holding my breath anytime I was underwater. Someone had suggested it,
No.
which would be a challenge in Dire Docks, I feel like.
Well, no, you could just get to the only. I guess it would be a little hard in Dire Docks, but I don't think it'd be super hard because you could always just come up for there. You could just do Mario.
That's true. That's true. Maybe Jolly Roger Bay in the ship.
Oh yeah, maybe. Depending on how fast you can swim, that might be hard. Next video idea? Question mark.
Yeah. If I have time, maybe. We'll see.
It's-
It's on the docket. Anyone out there who was so engrossed by my first video, or so whatever. I have a word in mind. I can't say it.
Engrossed.
Anyone who became so obsessed with my first video that they're waiting for that sequel, maybe you can hope one day that the sequel will come out.
Maybe. We'll finally get to see that hyperventilation at the beginning again.
Yeah, over and over again throughout the run.
Okay, and now here we go. Here's the last question that I have written down right now. This one is from Macropay. This one is a decomp question.
Okay.
We talked about. Let me give a slight bit of backstory. We talked about decomp in terms of other games and how this Mario 64 is kind of like the biggest one that's like of this scale. The question is, do you think ongoing decomp efforts for other games, for example Ocarina of Time, will yield the same sort of results that the SM64 decomp has?
So that's a really good question. I think certainly. So, excuse me. SM64 is certainly the largest one that's been completed, but it is not the largest in scope, which is part of the issue of some of the other games. Mario 64 is probably one of the smallest ones you can get of that generation
Yeah.
in terms of trying to decomp them because it was so early on in the lifespan. Um, the speed that Ocarina of Time right now has in its decompilation process is crazy. Um, it takes a long time for these to catch and get the support they need because there is such a learning curve. The beginning stages of setting up a decomp is so difficult. Once you have it set up, you just need people.
You need people that are able to help, yeah.
Yeah, you need people to just try decompiling different things. It takes time, it takes effort, but if you can code and you're willing to learn, chances are you can decompile. So the decompilation stage is difficult, but it's not impossible to overcome. Those initial stages are just so difficult to actually set it up, find the right compiler, get the initial extraction rate. Ocarina of Time is finally past that. It took them a while, but they are past it and they are making fast developments for both Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask. Now, do I ever think that the project will be 100% matching, like to the degree that Mario 64 is? Probably not.
Yeah.
There are some very, very long functions that are written so poorly it's not even funny with how long they are.
Oh no.
Just whole systems that are in a singular function. Like their text system in Majora's Mask is like 4,000 lines.
Oh my god.
In one function. So normally you do it on a per function basis because that's how the IDO compiler optimizes. It optimizes and generates per function. But when it's 4,000 lines, something you did at the very beginning could affect the very last line of code. You don't know.
Ugh.
And so there becomes so many possibilities of things like that. So I don't think they'll ever have 100% matching. It's not impossible. Someone could come up with really good automation tools that could maybe try so many options and eventually find something, or they do different comparisons between different versions of the games and narrow down the code possibilities. But I think the end goal of hoping to have something equivalent where you can make really deep ROM hacks is certainly possible.
Oh yeah, because if you're on a ROM hack, you don't need the actual matching compiled source. You just need something that'll get you pretty close that'll run on the N64.
That's true. And like randomizer built in is really only possible to the degree, in my mind anyways, because of decomp. It would be very difficult to do.
Oh yeah.
Purely in assembly. Although there is an assembly randomizer made by Andre.
Which is crazy. How do people code in assembly? I don't get it.
I don't know. So I think that at some point you could see that, and you could maybe even see the randomizer not going to time no longer be generator. It could be like maybe built in. I certainly think anyways. So I think there's real possibilities of seeing very good things coming out of it. Ocarina of Time is the one that sticks out, but recently Rareware games like Perfect Dark and 007 have been put out there, and there's some other ones behind the scenes that have certainly been having progress. I've seen some Paper Mario progress recently. You know, who knows if it'll actually get to a point where it's being published or whatever else, but I certainly think these other games would benefit from it just as much as SM64 has.
Yeah.
And I think that once they get off the ground, there is certainly a good possibility that other games could see the same type of revolution that Mario 64 has.
And not just even in ROM hacking, just in terms of like glitches and stuff too. Like,
if
I recall correctly, wasn't SRM found through some kind of like decompilation effort in Ocarina of Time?
Is that the text storage?
No, SRM. It's the one where they basically, it's kind of like cloning.
Yeah. So I can't comment on that. I can't comment one way or the other.
Okay.
I'm not sure. I do know that the Decomp and a tool made for Decomp, made by Quate and Simon Lindholm, it's like an automatic decompiler, was used to decompile some of the longest functions for their recent text, like ACE that came out, the ACE stuff.
Wow, so that's really just been helpful directly towards the speedrun.
Yeah, it played a role in that through Mr. Cheese.
Shout out to Mr. Cheese.
Yeah, shout out to Mr. Cheese. And Quaid and Simon.
Of course,
yeah.
Everyone involved.
And so it helps in that way. That is one of the nicest things about Decomp, is just having it like on hand, you can just immediately look at it and it's there for you to use. It helps a lot in that kind of glitch hunting.
Yeah, a lot
It
easier
certainly
to
helped for Mario 64.
definitely a lot easier to say, hey, this code is a little weird, than say, hey, let's look at the game and just see if Mario does something different if I press different buttons.
Yeah, yeah. And so I really hope we keep seeing that. I hope it keeps growing for other communities because I certainly would love that. I certainly love to see Donkey Kong 64 decomp.
Oh man, that would imagine Donkey Kong 64 with like less lag.
Less lag, actually like a functioning game. You can fix bugs. ROM hacks for the game are like super difficult right now just because of how.
Yeah, they actually just made their like very first ROM hack of it,
Yeah.
which is tag
And it took
barrel anywhere.
years.
It took them so long to do it because it's so hard to do stuff in just pure assembly.
Yeah. So if you had a decomp, that would open it up. Now I don't know if there's a community for that, but I certainly think it's possible, and I certainly look forward to seeing more games get that kind of focus.
Yeah, I do too. All right, so that appears to be the first episode, the inaugural episode, first full episode, I should say, of the Ukikicast podcast hosted by Wikipedia. Thank you so much to our interviewee, JoshDuMan, for helping me make this last hour and a half a pretty great time, I think, for everybody. I've been your host, OneTed59. Thank you all for watching. Say bye, Josh.
Yes. Thank you guys. It was great being on, and it was a lot of fun. I hope you enjoyed it.
I enjoyed it. I hope everyone watching will enjoy it too. In the meantime, I will see you guys next time. Thanks for watching, and peace out. Bye-bye.
See ya.